This incredible place is Wraysbury. It's one of the most iconic angling locations anywhere in the UK. It's also famous the world over as a carp fishing destination, fished by anglers who want to push themselves to the very limit in pursuit of the biggest fish of all. Now, for decades, it's pushed innovations and always forced things that are new. And that's why we're here this weekend. But for a change, it's not for a carp fishing event. Instead, welcome to the first ever London International Kayak Festival. So this is what we're talking about. Now, if you thought kayak fishing was just somebody sitting in a canoe with a fishing rod, let me tell you, things have moved on. This is the kind of thing that we're going to be seeing this weekend. This is a very advanced piece of kit, and it's full of boys' toys. Ian, this is your boat.
Yep.
You're going to give us a little tour around. Thank you very much for that. Just explain to us what we're looking at here.
So what you're looking at here is a purpose-built fishing kayak, okay? So we've got lots of mods that are specifically for kayak fishermen. So if I give you a quick tour from the front, we've got a nice hatch here. We can put all our gear in, really nice bit of space. We've got loads of big boys' toys, so we've got cameras, we've got GoPros, we've got fish finders. The interesting thing about this kayak is, you know, we've got a paddle, but paddles are so yesterday, right? So now we've got a new propulsion system that's powered by your feet, okay? So it's pedal powered. And when you push that forwards and backwards, you'll go quicker with this thing than you could ever go with a paddle.
The other thing I like about this, look, forward and reverse.
Yeah,
so you can go forwards as well as backwards.
Yeah, yeah, it's really handy, especially if you get a monster fish that tries to pull you into snags and underwater structure, you can hit reverse and pull back out.
I'm instantly taken by the amount of stuff you've got. I mean, we're anglers, aren't we? So you know the amount of stuff you take with you, and probably a bit too much. Yeah. Really comfortable seat by the look of it.
The seat, well, one thing about the fishing is, obviously, you're sat in the kayak for long periods, so you want a seat that's as comfortable as possible. We try and keep the centre of gravity quite low, so you can see it set quite low in the kayak, so that aids with the stability. We've got space in the back. We've got crates here that we put in the back, and we put all our tackle and our lures in.
Far too many, obviously.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and you can't help it. You can never have too many lures. We've got rod holders here. We've got a rudder, so we deploy that, and then, I don't know if you can see here, but effectively that's your steering here. So you've got left and right.
So many of these boats have been sold worldwide. I mean, I understand that we're now talking about 250,000 of these are on the water all over the globe. In Europe, it's really taken off, particularly in Central Europe. And in the UK, we're starting to see more and more people wanting to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that you're mobile, you can get to places that the boat fishermen can't get to. You can get to places that the bank fishermen can't get to. It's stealthy, it's quiet, you can get close to the fish without them seeing you, and it's a great load of fun as well with your big boys' toys. What's not to like?
It's a little jack pike, but they all count. Hey!
Well done, Mr. Harris!
So, Raf, just tell us how this event came about, why you decided to hold it here at Wraysbury.
So I've always been a big fan of predator fishing. I think it's very different to many types of angling. I think being on the water, being mobile, being able to hunt the fish adds a whole new dynamic to the sport. And I'm a massive believer in the future of predator fishing.
I mean, especially from kayaks, you look at a water like this and there's loads of this lake. It looks stunning, but there are lots of it that you couldn't get to from the bank.
Exactly, and that's why these kayaks change the game. Because, you know, people like their pike angling, they walk around, they're thrown off the bank, and you're walking, you know, for hours on end, so to speak. Here, within a couple of minutes, you can be in every nook and cranny of the whole lake and hopefully find that fish, you know?
We've got 75 of some of the best kayak anglers in the world who've come here, people from 13 countries. You know, you must be very excited to see the event take off like this.
I'm excited for that, but at the same time, it's quite unknown here as well. The number of fish in here, the size of fish in here.
In an ideal case scenario, what are you hoping to see from this weekend? We've got 2 days of competition ahead of us.
2 days ahead of us. Number one, enjoyment, happiness. You know, I want to see everyone enjoy themselves, be happy, and then have a good time, number one. Number two, let's get some fish out.
After a hard day of practice, the anglers gather for a pre-match briefing, where the rules of the competition are explained. The match takes place over 2 days on 2 of the lakes on the famous Raisbury complex. The field of 70 are split in half. 35 fish the first day on Raisbury 1, while the rest fish on Raisbury's Lake 2. They swap locations on the second day. This is a lure-only event, where target species are pike and perch. Every angler tries to catch 3 of each. The fish are measured in centimetres and then returned. The total length of all fish caught is added together to decide who the winner is. Anglers have made the trip here from all over the world. Kayak fishing's a massive sport in America and Asia. As well as kayak fishing experts from all over Europe and the States, 3 anglers have made it from China to compete. It's great to see a competition like this in the UK, isn't it?
Oh, brilliant. It needs, we do have a lot of competitions, but not as big as this or as prestigious, to be fair.
Yeah, I've come from Northumberland and I've come for this weekend Predator competition. Really looking forward to it. I think it's an absolute privilege to be able to fish these lakes. We wouldn't be able to do that on a normal day. So I'm just happy to be here and hopefully we'll catch some fish.
You've come a long way, Bob.
Yes, I have, and it's well worth it.
Why have you come?
Well, partly because, mostly because of Ian Harris and having met so many of these kayak fishermen from around the world. You know, I've met many of them in China at the World's Championship 2 years ago.
One of the things I'm sensing from this whole event is this is a growing sport. You've been around, you've been fishing a few years. What have you seen? How have you seen it grow the last sort of decade?
I started kayak fishing in 2008, and once I started, just the advantages I had as a fisherman, being able to literally walk up or pedal up to the fish and just to admire their beauty while I presented the proper cast. It was just unlike any other particular style of fishing.
You fish the UK competition scene for lures, and you've been one of the people that's been in there from the start, actually. What's it like to see a kayak competition emerge?
It's brilliant, and it's great fun. I'm a complete kayak novice, but anybody can get in these boats, anybody can have a go, and it's easy. As long as you don't fall in or tip it over, you're all right.
What about the venue?
Venue's ace. Oh, it's stunning.
It'll be interesting to see how you get on today. Is it pike all out, do you think?
Well, you need 3 pike, 3 perch, I would have thought, but perch are going to be a bit hard to come by. I've not seen it, I've not heard of any being caught in the last day's practice, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out.
The other question, of course, is you look around. I mean, there are people from 13 different nations here. There are 75 people across 2 lakes. Being involved in a competition of that size must get the old ticker going.
Yeah, it does. There's obviously some quality anglers here from across the globe, so it's we're up against it, but it's home waters, so we've got to put a bit of effort in, haven't we?
So it's 7 o'clock in the morning here at Raisbury, and you can see from the amount of activity on the dock here that the 35 anglers on Raisbury 1 are away. The event has started. There are anglers heading left, right, straight on. They've been practicing for a couple of days here, and the chances are that 1 or 2 of them know the best spots. Now, one of the most interesting elements to this sort of event is the amount of work you have to do to get to the fishing spot that you want to fish first. Because I tell you this for nothing, there won't be very many secrets. This is a fabulous lake, but what we saw in practice was that the fishing was quite hard. So if there are any spots that are likely to produce a fish early on, there'll be a few people trying to get them. Now the event takes place, the actual match today is over 2 lakes. This is Raisbury 1, the lake we're looking at now. There's also 35 other competitors on Raisbury 2. The fishing takes place from 7 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the idea behind that is that we're hoping that the predators feed early. The forecast today, you can already see there's some wispy cloud, there's some blue sky coming, a little bit of rain this morning, but the forecast is for it to get brighter and warmer later, and bright conditions and warm sunshine do not equal fantastic predator fishing. So hopefully one or two of these guys are going to get involved in some fish early on. The planes have already started from Heathrow Airport, so we'll see how we go. Well, Steve, we're already out on the water. The slightly disturbing thing for the angler's perspective is we're sort of 15 minutes into the match and the sun's already up and high. That's not going to help with the predator fishing, is it?
Well, yesterday when we had the practice day, things were slow. And I've been here a couple of times before and I've always caught fish. And actually, midsummer, sunny day, equally. So I'm not saying, I wouldn't say this is definitely going to be a problem. But judging by yesterday, who knows, it could be hard.
We're just up behind one of the Chinese anglers who's found himself a lovely little spot inside a fallen tree. This venue is extraordinary and it's such a natural kind of environment in such an unnatural place.
Yeah, considering the proximity to the airport and the big population centres, it's a little oasis. Okay, you hear the aircraft and so on, which reminds you where we are, but other than that, it's a beautiful little haven.
So there's another one of our international competitors, Steve. That's Bob Newweiler, who's come all the way from New Jersey to fish Raysbury. I mean, to all intents and purposes, Bob could be fishing for bass in a kind of in the glades or something, couldn't he? Look at it.
Yeah, I mean, this image you see here, this is very typical of these guys, you know, getting in close in amongst all the structures, the submerged roots. And what amazes me is the accuracy. They can ping a lure and they can just land it exactly where they want. They rarely tangle, you know, I mean, he's got it right in there, right just by the trees and the branches. And it's the accuracy of the casting, which is impressive.
Well, this is interesting, Steve. We're just looking at AD Peacock, and clearly he's fly fishing for the pike. But actually, it doesn't look like he's got fluff on the end. It's something else.
No, it looks like he's got a soft lure, soft plastic lure there, and it's dropping onto the surface, and then looks to me like he's fishing it just under the surface, which is probably why he's decided to use the fly rod. And so maybe he can just change out and get a fly on if he fancies it, and without having to change rig.
Well, Steve, we're in Dredger Bay, very famous location at Raysbury, famous for carp angling in this area because a sunken dredger that was used to extract some of the gravel from the original diggings of the lake is still here. And there's Paul Monaghan, who's another angler who's decided on fly tactics. Again, it looks like he's using something a little bit more traditional rather than a soft plastic on the end of a fly line. All of these anglers are competing for a prize money simply can't buy. If they win, they gain automatic selection to fish for Team Europe in the Hobie World Championships later this year. But using traditional methods or otherwise, fish were hard to find on Raysbury 1. It was a very different story on the other lake. By the time the event was 2 hours in, there'd been more than a dozen fish caught. So news is reaching us that there has been a decent pike caught over on Raysbury 2 by the Swedish angler Lars Lundberg, and his fish measured 79 centimetres, so that's down here. This is the kind of official fish measure that's being used in the competition, and each centimetre of fish measures goes towards their cumulative total. 3 pike are needed, 3 perch to get you a full house. Several anglers were heading for their maximum total of 3 pike, Lars among them. After his early fish, he was in again, and this time the pike was big enough to be measured by the marshals. This pike measured 84 centimetres. Lars, the angler they call the Crazy Viking, was heading into an early lead. Back on Raysbury 1 and Pip Medhurst had found a method that seemed to be working. Well, Steve, there's one of the England contingent, that's Pip Medhurst, who we understand has had a fish this morning, a 75 centimetre pike, which is a massive confidence boost because we haven't heard about a lot else being caught on Raspberry 1 yet.
No, that's a great start for Pip, and it's interesting how he's got a fish spot on the maximum length for the measure. If it had been a slightly bigger fish, we'd have been called over to measure it out on the larger scale. So it's a shame in some ways we didn't get the call, but a 75 is a good start, and considering there's not a lot of other action on other parts of the lake at the moment, that's a great start for Pip.
Kayak fishing is a sport which has attracted a new young crowd too. But perhaps the next person to catch on Raspberry 1 was a bit of a surprise. Well, Steve, we've moved back round to the boat bay, and here's MD Jacobs, one of the young anglers taking part in today's competition, 11 years old from Northampton, and he has caught a pike.
Yeah, this is only the second fish out, I believe, this morning, and there it is. Look at that. Well done, MD. Great job.
Do you know, the thing that's amazing about this place is look at the colours on that fish. I mean, that's the joy of fishing at Raspberry, the kind of the clear water. You get these incredible golds and greens on the pike and the perch too. Well, that fish measures 84 centimetres. Big smile on face, happy angler, happy dad. Everyone's happy. Fantastic stuff. Really, what a privilege to see. Brilliant stuff. Back to Raspberry 2 now, where the crazy Viking had hooked into another pike. Proof that it doesn't always go according to plan, but elsewhere on the lake, we're still on Raspberry 2, and there is David Morris. A punch in the air, and you'll see why in a second, because look at the size of the pike in his landing net. That is an enormous fish from Raspberry 2. That's what this event's all about. I mean, we've seen an 11-year-old over on Raspberry 1 catching potentially the biggest fish of the day. There have been at least half a dozen or so fish here on 2. Oh my Lord, look at the size of this fish. Well, Ian Harris is going to measure it. That's an enormous Raspberry pike, and that's gone well over a metre.
107.
We're going to give that 107, 1 metre and 7 centimetres, just to double check. So we take a photograph very quickly, bright sunshine, so we're going to be very aware that this fish needs to go back in the water as fast as possible. Isn't that an incredible looking creature though? And it's lovely that everybody's here to see this. A real achievement. So David, talk us through the capture. What happened?
Well, I'd just been casting my Western swim bait around. I had a fish earlier today on the same bait. And yeah, just bang, I felt something hit, and then it was a bigger, it swallowed the whole lure, and then a very quick, short fight, getting it straight into the net as quickly as possible.
Amazing to see a fish that size fight so quickly, landed so quickly.
Yeah, that's a PB for me, so I'm over the moon. It was, yeah, I just wanted to get it in the net, to be honest. There's so many fish being lost today, some good fish, that it was just important for me to get it.
What sort of water were you fishing in?
I think, I don't know, it's about 12 feet, I think. Something around 12 feet, so it's what I'd normally do for pike fishing.
What, into open water or into the cover?
I was in from open water into the cover, casting very close into cover.
As the first day drew to a close, it was clear the anglers who'd fished on Raspberry 2 had enjoyed better sport than those on the other lake. Just 3 pike had been landed on 1, compared with 40 on Raspberry 2. That pike, foaled by Great Britain international David Morris, was the biggest of the day. So as the anglers headed for the clubhouse, dreaming of the chance of competing in the biggest kayak event in the world, it was Lars Lundberg who was in pole position. He eventually had a third fish and led with 234 centimetres. Graham Bustill was second, Eddie Edwards third on 202. Incredibly, the top 13 anglers of the 75 fishing all came from Raisbury too. 11-year-old MD Jacobs led the pack from one with his 84-centimetre Raisbury crocodile. The biggest mystery of all, though, was where had all the perch gone? Not a single measurable stripey was landed. Perhaps they'd all appear on the second day. So here we are then on the morning of the second day of the London Kayak Festival here at Raisbury. Now today it's a very different day indeed, because look at the weather. It's overcast, it's drizzly. Yesterday, bright sunshine, 22 degrees, it was a glorious summer's day. Now those conditions are not ideal for predator fishing, but guess what? This weather is absolutely perfect, and that could be a huge, huge game changer. So Lars, you're leading overnight. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling good. I'm actually quite relaxed.
Yesterday you had a good day on W2. Today on W1 it's going to be a very different match, isn't it?
Well, we'll see when we get out there.
Oh, pretty excited. Conditions are a bit better today. A bit of overcast cloud and we might fish a bit better. It was hard fishing yesterday, but it's a pretty good place, lovely.
So Reece, 3 fish yesterday's put you right in the running. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm nervous on a lake that's not caught very well over the last couple of days, so we'll give it our best, but light conditions are better. And it's looking more optimistic out there, so we'll give it a good go.
Listen, you've got a big match to fish for today, and you're right up there on the leaderboard. I mean, how are you feeling about the competition that you're going to face today?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried because the weather's much better for today for us, and then we've got a problem that the guys on the other lake are going to have a much better time as well. So there's going to be quite a few threes I think will come out over there. Just hope I can get at least 2 fish from here.
W2 yesterday was one thing.
Yes.
This lake fished ever so hard and did in practice too. I mean, what's your sort of impression of how it's going to go?
I think the weather conditions are going to be in our favour, so I think an early fish is the way forward. Looking at the conditions, we've had early morning rain. The fish could be active. I just hope that they will be, but I'm using an old-fashioned tactic, which is a copper spoon. Not many people use them these days. It's one that I've had since, say, 1971, and I'm really enjoying it. It caught me 3 fish, so what can I say?
Well, I mean, we are several competitors that have quite close weights, and I mean, 1 pike can make a big change in the leaderboard. So, I mean, we are at least 5-6 guys within a half a metre, and that's a small pike. So.
Makes it a fantastic competition though, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the fun of this. I mean, anything can change at any time, and it's really just about hard work. You throw your lures, the more time the lure spends in the water, the bigger chances of catching a fish.
Kayak, are you ready? Can't hear you. Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
So there we are. The second day is underway, and look at Lars Lundberg go. He's on a mission. He's leading the event overall, and he's gone straight down that left-hand channel at a rate. Interesting to see the configuration of his boat. He's got outriggers on either side, which makes the boat more stable. And he's disappearing off. He's not alone, of course. And the boat's disappearing to all quarters. It'll be fascinating to see how this lake fishes today, because it was really hard work yesterday. So then, Ian, the boats are underway. What's your feeling about how this match is going to go today?
I think it's going to go down to the wire. So we've got guys in the top 10. Any one of them could win it. It's all to play for. One fish from one of those guys could catapult them from 10th to 1st. And Raisbury 1's been fishing a bit tougher than Raisbury 2. So I think they won't have it as easy as they had it yesterday. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, here we are then on Raisbury 2, Steve. It's the morning of the second day, and we're with Mike Taylor, who is our first fish that counts on the boat. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yep,
that looks like a nice fish.
Yeah, there have been some other pike caught, I believe, this morning by 1 or 2 anglers, around about the 70 mark, 73, 75. This one obviously is oversized on the board, so we're going to put him on the big trough to measure. But yeah, that's a good-looking fish, long and slim by the look of that one.
Let's talk to us a little bit about the, how can I put this, non-pike capture. What happened there?
Yeah, okay, so about 20 minutes ago, we got the call. Amos, Paul Mack gave us a wave. We headed over thinking it looks like a big pike on. As we arrived, he's shouting, carp, carp, carp. So, he was fly fishing for a pike. And today, one of the local carp decided he wanted to make a meal of it. So he came up and took the fly.
It's fascinating the way these two lakes are fished. I mean, this is the essence of this competition today. There were 40 fish caught on Raisbury 2 yesterday, and only 3 pike caught on Raisbury 1. All the anglers obviously have switched places, so those who fished on 1 yesterday have moved over here to 2 and vice versa. How do you see this going today, Steve?
Well, it's looking good so far. I mean, there are more fish been taken this morning in the first hour, so, it's shaping up pretty well. The conditions look a little similar to yesterday, maybe a bit more cloud cover. That may change things slightly, but, yeah, it's looking good so far.
Now, that's a cracking-looking Raisbury 2 pike. Look at the colours on that. Beautiful looking fish.
It looked fantastic. It was real tiger stripe effect on its back when it was down in the water. Once you get it out the water and get it in the sunshine, there's all the bronze and the gold and the other coloration on the fish. Fantastic, really good condition too.
So Mike, fantastic looking fish that. After spending yesterday thrashing the water to a foam with no reward, what's that like to hook up finally?
Oh, big relief, huge relief. Like you say, a lot of effort yesterday. No reward, and then today, new lake, a lot of fish caught yesterday, nothing caught over the other lake, and then starting to think that maybe a bit too much pressure yesterday and they weren't going to feed today, and then straight away.
Can you show us the lure you used, because that one's off the top, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was a surface lure. It's a bit tangled in the net, but it's called a squirrely bird, heavy rattle in it, and she just fishes either just on the top, if I can get it undone, or just underneath. And I just had it just working slowly across the top. The fish come along, just engulfed it. Heart stopping.
I'd say that's really interesting. That's a pike pattern, isn't it? I mean, it's a jack pike, little tiny pike pattern.
Yeah, I went for the natural colour because the water's so clear. I thought maybe the bright colours might be putting them off a bit, so try something natural, and it worked.
Here's Francois Smith, who is, how can we put this, in the wars this morning. He's this is the 3rd pike he's landed.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think the first fish that he caught, when you're unhooking pike, occasionally you can get into difficulties. They've got very sharp gill rakers, and Francois has managed to cut his fingers. And the other problem you've got is that the pike's gill rakers are covered in an anticoagulant. So basically, when they bite a prey, the prey bleeds to death. But I'm afraid he's suffering as a result. So we've got another angler approaching us from behind. I mean, the difference between the sport we saw on Raisbury 1 yesterday and here on Raisbury 2, we're actually queuing up, literally, to get fish measured. This is the 3rd fish we've seen this morning. Fantastic stuff. Well, Steve, we're back in the same bay where just a few moments ago we saw 2 pike, and here's one of the other Chinese anglers just landing another fish. It's clearly an area where the fish are feeding. Oh, fantastic.
He's happy. Yeah, this looks like Jack Pike Alley at the moment. They're pulling him out here at a pace, and I think that may be his first fish, so I think he's really pleased.
Well, Steve, there's Bob Newweiler from New Jersey, who is trying to tap into the attack instincts of the pike by fishing a topwater bait, a fascinating little bait that. We just saw him show us the bait, and it's a little tiny green popper, which has actually got almost like a plastic vein, but at the other end of the bait, so it's actually causing that spray. You can see the the spray coming up by the tail of the bait. Bob says it's a fantastic bass bait, and of course pike are predators just like bass, aren't they?
Yeah, that little plume coming off the tail of the lure, I guess it's trying to imitate some creature or other, or a little fish or whatever it is, but looking like it's frantically whizzing across the top there, and that's got to be attractive to a fish. But it is it's not a lure I've seen in the UK before. It looks like very much a US bass lure to me.
And that's one of the wonderful things about this. You know, we've got people from 13 different countries here who've all got their own ways of fishing in their own countries. And everyone's going to learn from each other too, which is the other bonus of a competition like this.
Particularly, you know, some of our Hobie fishing team guys that go over to the Hobie worlds in various parts of the world. They've had it in Texas, they have it in Australia, they've had it in China. You know, when they go to these places, they come back with an array of new techniques, different lures they've discovered, and the guys generally are quite happy to share the information. And a lot of it's going to cross over, so it's a great learning experience when they do travel like that.
There's Phil Medhurst, who was one of only 3 anglers to catch fish on Raspberry 1 yesterday. He's here on Raspberry 2 today, and the bad news is that Pip has not yet caught a fish. He's going to be frantic trying to catch something out here.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because I was speaking to Pip early this morning just before we launched, and he was talking tactics, and one of the things he mentioned was that he felt that possibly the fish would be more likely to take lures either near or on the surface. And he said that was something he was going to try. Now, it doesn't look like he's using that type of lure right now, but certainly the fish we've had out so far, most of the anglers seem to have been doing and catching the fish in the way that Pip predicted, i.e. on the surface or near the surface.
Yesterday, the guys at the top of the leaderboard, who are now fishing on Raspberry 1, who were on here yesterday, they've had their 3 fish. The question is whether any of the guys at the top of the leaderboard will be able to catch enough fish on Raspberry 1, and if Pip can get 2 or 3 pike out here, obviously the points he'll get from yesterday will be added to today, and then he'll go flying up the leaderboard, but he does need to start catching fairly soon.
He does, and it's interesting. I've just had a phone call with the other Marshall boat on Raspberry 1, and yeah, it's producing some fish today. So whether it will be as prolific as 2, I don't know, but there has certainly been some fish coming up, and certainly the Marshall boats attended 4 or 5 fish, therefore oversized, so over the 75 centimetre mark. There may be more that the anglers are measuring themselves on their own boards, but it certainly seems like Raspberry 1 is starting to turn on.
Well, doesn't this just go to show it doesn't matter where you're fishing, if the fish are there, you can catch them. We're right on the pontoon here, back on Raspberry 1, which is the lake where everyone's struggled so far this competition. And there we can see Ian Harris, who is doing the job of measuring another fabulous Raspberry pike. And this is Ian Pickering, who yesterday caught a fish on Raspberry 2, and so far this morning he's had 2 pike. So Ian is going to be right there in the running for this competition. This is going to be a fascinating afternoon, and it's interesting that the fish on Raspberry 1 have started to have a little bit of a feed. Steve, there's Daniel van der Post, who was in 5th position overnight, and do you know how close this competition is? Between him and Rhys Morgans, who was 1 place above him, was 1 centimetre. Incredible, isn't it?
That's really, really close. I mean, they've all got to keep going right until the end. Daniel's an expert kayak angler from the Netherlands, very used to these conditions, catching pike and perch and zander in all the waterways of the Netherlands. He's very, very experienced, and you know, he's definitely got a great opportunity to catch a fish. He's got to keep going right to the end. Anything could change any time.
Well, Steve, an interesting little bit of tactical jigging here. In fact, jigging's the right word to use, because that in the green boat is Mike Hayward, who's 11th overnight on 138, and he's been concentrating on perch fishing. And I can bring you exciting news. he actually caught 2 measurable perch. The first person that we've seen in the competition who's caught 2 measurable stripies. Brilliant stuff. Well, there's Rhys Morgan's paddling off to try and find some fresh water to fish in. He caught 3 fish yesterday, but so far today has had nothing. He was on 195 centimetres overnight. And as he disappears round the corner in search of some fresh water, this match is reaching the sharp end. Rhys in 4th place overnight, one of the contenders for the title. And there's so much at stake from this match for these guys who are passionate about kayak fishing, because the winner gets to be selected for the Hobie team to go and fish in the World Championships representing Europe. And imagine that as a huge honour, fishing against the best kayak anglers in the world. Well, Steve, there's our overnight leader, the man that Ian Harris calls the Crazy Viking, Lars Lundberg, who is working really hard. And one thing I notice about the boat that he's on is it's very different to almost everything else we've seen on the lake. Can you explain what the difference is with that one?
Yeah, because Lars travelled by aircraft from Sweden, he didn't bring the boat with him, so he's borrowed a boat from one of our Hobie team members, Dave Morris, and this is Dave's chosen model for use on the sea. So it's a long, slender hull. It's 16 feet long, and it's very, very fast because of the hull shape. It's a very, very good sea fishing boat, but also equally it'll work very well on these lakes for competition fishing because of the outriggers that they're installed.
I'll tell you what, Steve, look at him go. I mean, what sort of speed do you reckon he's doing? 4 or 5 knots easily?
Yeah, very, very easily. We've clocked these boats. You know, if you're using the larger fins, the turbo fins, you can kick on and that'll push along. He's doing at least 5 knots there, maybe even a touch more. He's really putting the effort in, to be honest. But he's wanting to get to another spot. He's checked this out. He's decided it's not happening for him here, and he's, like you say, he's highly competitive. He's going to find another spot, and he's going to try and do the same there.
No, he's just lost it. Well, we're just cruising up